right. Well, welcome back to the Green Burial Chronicles with Morgan Oaks. So I'm super excited today. We have the fabulous, the wonderful Steve Morgan. And for those of you that are like, who the heck is Steve Morgan? You guys, we are in for a treat today because we are with the co-founder himself, Steve Morgan. So a couple of things. I want to give you some professional, personal background, a fun fact about him. And then I'm going to let him tell you like the question I get all the time, Steve, and I'll come back to this after I introduce you, but like people just want to know, like, how does this even happen? How did we get here? And so a couple fun facts about Steve. So like I said, he's the co-founder of Morgan Oaks Eternal Preserve. He founded, so we are owned by a company called Wildlands, and he spent 30 years developing wildlife habitat and endangered species protection, which is called in the industry mitigation banking. And so that's kind of how we got our wildlife preserve and our green burial together. So there's that. Today, he really wants people to know like the concept, the benefits of green burial versus a conventional burial. So we'll talk about that. And then little fun fact, I thought this was really cool. So Steve started his career as a commercial pilot. So I didn't even know that. And he said he went on to notice and realize, you know what, honestly, I'm nothing more than a glorified taxi driver, but in the air. And so he said the entrepreneurial world was calling his name. And so he went with it. So welcome, Steve. I'm so honored to have you here. To know you is to love you. And so I'm excited to interview you and walk through this. So our first question, this is it. What inspired you to start Morgan Oaks Eternal Preserve?
First, thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Actually, I think you summarized it in your opening. My love of the land
Okay.
and the outdoors. The concept is unique for a preservation standpoint.
Yep.
So it's just kind of an extension of what I've done for 30 years.
So I'm going to ask this off the cuff, but I mean, you were just laying in bed one day and woke up and said, oh my gosh, I want to start green burial? Or like, was this something that you had kind of been thinking about for years?
Actually, it was by accident.
Okay.
The aside from our outdoor preservation and enhancement, we had a farm manager that was managing a walnut farm we had on the Sacramento River.
Okay.
And we had a little section of the landscape that was very pristine and beautiful.
Okay.
And he said one day, we should have a green burial cemetery.
Okay.
And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, it's quite popular in the United Kingdom. It's been going on for years.
Okay.
And just that little hint inspired me to look into it. And I spent years studying it before we, in essence, pulled the trigger to start.
I love that. Crazy, right? What a little nugget could do to then start an inspiration down the road, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the biggest challenge so far, we'll say, in establishing a green burial cemetery?
I think it was the concept of pioneering something that is not in one's normal mindset.
Yes.
And that leads from a permitting standpoint when you're dealing with local jurisdictions,
Yep.
state governments, local governments. You want to do a cemetery. Cemeteries in itself are very challenging,
Yeah.
let alone a natural burial cemetery.
Yeah.
So the naivety of information and knowledge about it took years to solidify interest and get to where we are.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from someone who didn't even ever think about a green burial or, you know, no one wants to talk about that, I can't imagine the process and the permitting. And now we're finding some of the biggest challenges are getting people to talk about death, you know, from this point on. We've got it permitted. You did the hard work. So thank you for letting me come in when it's getting easier. But now it's just like changing people's mindset and helping them educate. So that's why we do the podcast is we're going to educate people on what this is. This is a fun one. The location. Location. What made you choose that location, Lincoln, the property, whatever?
Well, through my course of learning about the industry in itself, I spent a lot of time traveling throughout the United States.
Okay.
I did quite a bit of traveling on the East Coast, Southwest, interviewing people that had their foot in the industry, either successfully started or looking to start. And I actually looked at sites in Tennessee to purchase. I looked at one in New Mexico.
Yep.
I looked at Catalina Island.
Oh, yeah.
So I looked at a variety of it, soon realized that because it's a startup business, and we needed to be close and have our hands on the pulse of the business,
Smart.
so we could learn ourselves as we progress.
Got it. Well, I mean, we could always revisit Catalina Island. I mean, I'm willing to sacrifice myself if you need me to go back there. So I'm grateful you chose Lincoln to start, but should we want to venture off, right? Okay. So personally, what does Morgan Oaks mean to you?
Means an opportunity to share the outdoors and the love of the outdoors with all the local customers and the local citizens, whether they're a customer of the Morgan Oaks or just local community.
Yeah.
We open our doors for the full enjoyment of the project.
Yeah, everything. I love that. And I mean, you have family there.
I have my mother and father were transferred there.
Yep.
I have my father-in-law and my brother both
Yeah.
since
So
we've opened up. So it's a real meaningful location for our
it
family
is.
as well.
It is. I love to visit your family. They're in the back and they're in the perfect spot. You can adopt me and place me back there when you're ready.
You got a
But
deal.
I do think when you have someone laid to rest there, it becomes even more personal, right? Like the vision was for you to love it and open it to the community, and our neighbors love us. Like we're great neighbors. We're very quiet. But when you have someone laid to rest, I think it just means more too. So
I
I
think
love that.
those who have an opportunity to experience laying a loved one to rest at the site says it all.
It does.
It says it all.
Yeah.
I know it was very special for me when my brother passed away with COVID
Mm-hmm.
to be able to
Yeah. Put him somewhere special. No, you're good.
gravitates to the heart.
Yeah.
But we hooked up a mule carriage,
Mm.
put my brother in the back of the wagon, promenaded to the back of the cemetery, and everybody walking peacefully. It's just a very, very serene, touching feeling.
It is. I was
The
there that day.
Peace and harmony.
I love it. And I know it means a lot to you. And so that's why it means so much to us. Our listeners love it. And you've created something so beautiful. And so, as we get more people involved, I know that they're so grateful for you. So, why do you think that green burials are important? Outside of being peaceful and serene, why do you think they're important?
What's interesting, green burials have been taking place for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until the Civil War where we changed the handling of the deceased.
Interesting, right?
Embalming the soldiers to get them delivered back home to their local communities to put them to rest.
Yeah.
Is how that whole thing started with the transformation.
Yeah.
And then with the assassination of Abe Lincoln, they decided to promenade his body, and they developed an ornate casket, something of showy presence, and promenaded up and down the streets for days. So that whole industry started evolving into a different approach. And it's very costly environmentally on some of the techniques that we've adapted.
Yes.
The hardwood caskets.
Yep.
We cut down hardwood forest, the tune of 35,000 board feet a year
Yep.
go into the making of hardwood caskets. The concrete vaults
Yep.
that the caskets are placed in. There's enough concrete every year to pave a highway from San Francisco to Phoenix.
Oh my gosh.
So that's an incredible amount of contamination going into the
Yeah.
earth, not to mention the embalming fluids
Yep.
are poisonous not only to and handling and embalming for the people that are doing it, but leaching into the landscape and the ground. So it just doesn't make any environmental sense to go through all that when you can have something so simply beautiful by laying a body to rest in a biodegradable casket or a shroud.
Yeah.
And let that nature take its course.
It's crazy. I've even heard now, Steve, that some cemeteries are vaulting with plastic. I mean, we won't even put a straw in the water, but now we're vaulting.
I
We're
know.
vaulting. It's crazy. And I just don't think that the world is educated on how much toxins go back into the earth. And so when a company like Wildlands comes in and that is their purpose is to take care of the land and animals and wildlife, this makes sense, but people aren't educated. They just know what they know, and that is you pay an ungodly amount of money to lay someone to rest. I call it your wedding for your death. You know, I mean, you're going to pay for a wedding sooner than later, and so you'll see you can try to do it cheap, but it just keeps adding up.
Now, and green burial is historically about 1/3 of the cost of traditional burials today.
Yeah,
And that money goes a long way to the average family.
it
in savings
does.
and meaning. And if they want to put money into legacy, put it into a contribution for a nonprofit or health reasons or
Yes.
American Cancer Society or the youth,
Something, not a casket that's
not a
going to go in the
casket that goes in the
ground.
ground and covered up forever and you can't see it.
It's wild.
So it really makes a lot of sense.
It does. It does. Thank goodness you were brilliant. And all the listeners, you didn't know you were going to get a history lesson today, but that Civil War fact is crazy. So I've been doing some lessons and who I didn't know. I think people keep calling green burial new and it's this new trend. And it's like, no, it's not a new trend.
It's
This
been,
was
it's been there for years.
forever, you guys. So I love that. What do you want or hope people take away when they visit Morgan Oaks? What do you want them to go away with?
I want them to feel this sense of peace and serenity
Mm-hmm.
that the site offers.
Yeah.
It has such a silent romance about it,
Mm.
walking around the trail systems, watching the wildlife,
Mm-hmm.
the peace, the quiet, the landscape, the sunrises, the sunsets.
Yep.
It's just endless on what feelings you can walk away with on the site.
Yeah. I love that. I was there on Saturday, this last Saturday, so early March. And it was the middle of the day, and my dad is laid to rest there. And I have a memorial tree for my dad or my brother. And it was the middle of the day, and it was so peaceful, so quiet. And Steve mentioned our walking trails. So we have 3 miles of walking trails. And you know what? I threw on my rucksack and I just walked the trails. And it is the most peaceful, beautiful. My mom texted me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm walking the property. And then I was sitting we have a fire pit too for the listeners, a fire pit celebration of life. But I just sat there, Steve, with my feet up. And I just thought, like, there is nowhere better than this. And I thanked my dad for just allowing me to lay him to rest there. And you, of course, for finding it. But it's unlike anything I've ever seen.
No, it's really wonderful.
It's beautiful. And so it gives me peace having my dad there.
And as you know, in the interment, we don't allow vertical tombstones.
Right.
So when you're looking at the landscape, you're seeing it as it naturally is. It's not a irrigated park. It's no mow and blow. It's
No.
all natural habitat. We do have the tree memorials where we plant additional trees on behalf of the families and loved ones.
Yep.
But it's all a natural landscape.
Yeah.
And people who experience that, most people never get a chance to walk a natural landscape that's protected in perpetuity.
Crazy, right? And you can do it right here in Lincoln, California, Placer County, your own backyard. Okay. So how do you see Morgan Oaks evolving in the future? Is there anything that you see that changes or grows?
No, I think evolving is educating the marketplace
Mm-hmm.
as an alternative. As momentum builds at this particular location, we
Mhm.
can look to advance in other locations where we feel the market would support that
Yeah.
and introduce the opportunity for people to enjoy it elsewhere.
Yeah.
We're not restricted for people coming in from long distance to use Morgan Oaks,
No.
but it's far more convenient for the local citizens to do and
Yeah.
more meaningful that they can come out and watch,
Yeah.
be with their loved ones and have some serenity and quiet time with their family.
Yeah, but you make a great point because we do find that there isn't anything like us. Number one, the property, what we offer, the people that we staff. I mean, our hearts and souls are to love and serve the community, the people that come out there. And so you don't find us. But that being said, we do have people that come from all over the US. So just because you might be listening from New York, it's not weird to think like, well, how would I ever get there? You could get here. We have Austin, Texas. We have Southern California. We have people from, all over. And so I love that just because you don't live here doesn't mean you can't be here. So
Right.
that's great. How has the community, do you think, responded to having Morgan Oaks out there?
Oh, I think it's been marvelous.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny when I first started talking about developing a green burial cemetery. I introduced the idea to a friend or a group of people as we're talking about it, and you'd get this blank look on their face for about, I used to call it the 5-minute rule. They wouldn't say anything, wouldn't
Yeah.
express themselves. And then all of a sudden something would click and they'd start smiling. Well, that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
But until they see it, they can't believe it.
Yeah.
And the thing in Morgan Oaks, such a beautiful landscape
Yeah.
and so convenient to the Sacramento area
Yeah.
that people can come out there and just enjoy it for the park setting.
Yeah.
Even,
Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, even if they don't have someone there.
That's the truth. And so it's funny you say that because I'm sure your friends were like, oh no, Steve's lost his mind. He's going to do a green burial cemetery. Again, this
True.
wild man. Yeah, you might
True.
have lost your mind a little bit, but smart you were. Okay, so I think, now that I've been out there since we've opened, I've gotten to meet a lot of the neighbors. And so those listening, I think at first they thought you were crazy. And the other founder were like, oh God, we're bringing a cemetery. Because when you think of a cemetery, guess what? You think of scary and it's sad and all these things. And so until you've seen it play out, now our neighbors come and I mean, they thank us daily. They walk their dogs every day. We know all of our neighbors. Our neighbors love us. We're quiet, obviously,
Yeah.
no one's partying on our property. Everyone's laid to rest forever. But it gives a park-like setting. So we have tons of dog walkers, tons of just people that need a space to just be at one, right? Like the world is so crazy. There's not a lot of places where you can just go and get off the grid. Colby and I always say that. If you want to get off the grid, go to Morgan Oaks because your cell phone may or may not work.
Perfect.
You don't know. So I love that. And I think our neighbors do love us because we provide something so great for them and everybody else. So
Absolutely.
what's been your favorite event so far that we've done at Morgan Oaks? We haven't done a ton, but we've done some. Is there anything that stands out to you?
I think they've all been special.
Yeah.
And there's been so many different varieties of events we've had, from the Ferrari car show
Yeah, that's
to
right.
the walkathons to the pumpkin carving section.
Oh my gosh, you remember all the good ones. Yeah. Okay.
With the little kids coming out
Yeah.
carving pumpkins and getting painted faces.
Yeah.
And then we had the painted lady drill team on their horseback one
We
time.
did. Yep.
So it's all been fun. And it's
Yeah.
all uniquely different, and it doesn't focus on one particular element.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we're open for everybody to enjoy.
Yeah. And I think some listeners might be thinking, wait, they do what at the cemetery? So we hold events. A lot of the events that we hold are to benefit a cause. So the car show benefited a cause, the walkathons benefit a cause. And so I want the listeners to know that we've created a company, a business, a place where we want to support the community. And we want to give back and love on our community and love on our people. And so I love that we can do that there. We've had the Spring Bloom. That was a party in itself. We did Pause and Pose. We love those furry little friends to come out and walk. And so it's been a lot of fun. Our events have been a lot of fun. And we do yoga every first Thursday of the month.
I
So
think that's fantastic.
it's cool.
Good for you to
Yeah.
introduce that.
Yeah, so we're excited about the yoga stuff. And if you're a listener on here and you're like, well, I want to create an event, please let us know. We would love to support any event that we could put on out there because we have 160 acres we could utilize. So no event could be too big or too small. I might regret saying that, but
And one thing to point out about the land, the 160 acres, that it's protected by conservation easements or deed restrictions in perpetuity.
okay.
So what you see today will always be there in its
Oh.
natural form.
Steve, great. Because that is probably the number one question. Again, say it again for the people in the back. Tell them again.
The
That
site
land.
is protected by permanent conservation easements and or deed restrictions
Okay.
that will allow it to stay in its present state in perpetuity.
Wonderful.
Can't touch it.
Good. Okay. People always are like, "What? How do we know it's not going to be an apartment complex or a Safeway or a shopping center?" So that's a great one. What's been the most rewarding part of this journey for you personally?
I think it's like all the landscapes we have, is introducing another landscape and protecting nature in its finest.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's been a mindset, whether it's not specific to one property or another, but it's just a mindset through time to do what we can do to preserve
Mm-hmm.
our beautiful environment.
And, I know that people don't really know me. They don't know you. They don't know Morgan Oaks. But for everyone that's listening, Steve is an absolute brilliant man. And so for him to have developed something like this, we are grateful. But a brilliant mind entrepreneur to think of something totally wild. And, everybody business owners alike are probably like, man, it just takes one crazy idea to make something so beautiful. So I know for you, it's probably, you're very humble, but it's probably been really fun to watch it grow and watch the community support it
Oh, absolutely.
and be like, wow, that was mine. And our co-founder, Mark, our little idea grew into something so big. Who would have ever thought? I mean, you knew because you're smart, but um, if you could describe Morgan Oaks in only 3 words, what would they be?
Good question. Heaven on earth?
Ah, Steve, that's good. Wow. You guys, he's so quick. Um, what is the one thing that you wish more people understood about end of life choices?
I think it's tragic that people have a fetish about talking about death
Mm,
and pre-planning.
hmm
At the point of someone passes, it's such an emotional event for the family.
Yeah.
They have to make decisions about it, how they may be laid to rest, whether it's cremation or conventional burial and natural burial or hard casket and mainstream burial.
hmm
It's too much pressure on the families to make all those decisions at a point of need and time.
hmm
So I think whether they choose green burial or they choose cremation, whatever the vehicle is, the pre-planning is really something that I would encourage families to do to take away the stress from their surviving family.
Yeah. Uh, I don't disagree. I lost my dad very quickly, and I just, we hadn't talked about anything. My dad was 81 years old, and the man didn't want to talk about death because apparently he thought he was going to outlive it. And it was hard. And now that I'm on the other side and I've been blessed to work for Morgan Oaks, I feel like my passion is, let's talk about this before we get there. Because the last thing I wanted to do was sit on my dad's deathbed and say, how would you like to die? I wanted to talk about all the cool things we did,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
And
Make it a
so,
joyous event, make it a
yes.
celebration.
And like you get to go back and give back to the earth, Dad. You get to go, but we didn't get that opportunity. We had to talk about how he wanted to die. And so I think it becomes a discussion that we at Morgan Oaks have made as light as we can. Let's make it as easy as we can for the family. So then it's done and you don't have to talk about it until it happens. Um, because we're also finding, and you would probably agree, that when you wait till the last minute, it becomes very costly.
Costly and traumatic,
Yes.
emotionally.
Yes. Which that's one of the things you and I discussed on the way here is we're going to have a grief specialist because a lot of people don't know how to deal with the grief when it becomes a traumatic event.
Oh, it's hard to deal with.
Yeah.
And it lasts for years. It's a memory you'll never get out of your mind.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about my brother. It still
Yeah.
choked me up.
Yeah.
So being able to have that all lined out, peace of mind, I'd love more of our families to be able to pre-plan.
Yeah. And we make that easy for them because we give them all the options. We don't push, we don't pressure, but we like to make it cost effective for them. So, okay. Is there any last words that you want to leave the listeners with? I'll give them a couple of things, but is there anything else that you're like, I need them to know this about you, about Morgan Oaks?
Oh, there's no need to know anything about me, but they need to experience Morgan Oaks.
Yeah.
Seeing is believing.
Mm,
We invite everyone to come out on this tour and feel the serenity of the site.
yeah.
See how they can be a part of the nature.
Yeah.
Whether they ever use it for entertainment purposes or not doesn't make any difference. They're all welcome.
Yes.
I think our gates open at 7:30 in the morning
Yeah.
and they close at 5:30 at night, 7 days
Later.
a week,
7 o'clock at night.
7 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
And it's fun to see people get out, have the benefit of that.
Yeah. Steve brings up a really great point, you guys. So again, our property is open for the public. We want to create a park-like setting where whether you use us or not to lay your loved one or yourself to rest, we just want you there. We just want you to walk your furry little friends, each other, whatever you want to do.
People experience nature in its finest.
Yes.
And
So
it's such a beautiful sight.
it is.
The
Rain.
sunsets are phenomenal. The sunrises are extraordinary.
Yeah. And we have
This
great.
time of year, we've got everything starting to bloom. We've got daffodils and
We do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have chairs you can sit in at the hilltop over at the veteran section. So come and hang out, grab a glass of wine, whatever you want to do. But just take it in, just feel it and see it. So I love that, Steve. Well, thank you again for joining me here on this crazy podcast that we've started. Thank you for creating a beautiful legacy for all of us. Thank you for allowing families to lay their loved ones to rest. It's meant a lot for me personally, and I know for our community. So I am
Well,
grateful.
thank you, Stephanie, for making it all happen.
Yes, I love it there. So if you are listening, a couple of things to close out with, you can follow us here on this podcast once a month. We're here. We have death doulas coming. We're going to have a grief specialist. We're going to have people from the funeral industry. We're going to educate. We're going to have some fun. We're going to give these people everything they need to know about green burial. So you can follow us on Instagram, Morgan Oaks Eternal Preserve. We're on TikTok. That's what all the kids are using. So everybody needs a good TikTok account. So at Morgan Oaks Eternal, Facebook, YouTube, we are in all the places. We really wanted to create something different. And so we've been able to do that. So you can follow us on all of those platforms. You can listen to our podcast on every listening platform, whatever they so choose. But with that, thank you for listening. Walk gently, remember deeply, and celebrate the legacy of life.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.